Georgina, thanks so much for your time. First of all, your thoughts on what we have seen transpire in Zimbabwe, particularly today, with the police being sent there at a press conference that the opposition was trying to hold to explain its way.
You know, I think that violence is just in the DNA of ZANU-PF. And however much Emerson Mnangagwa says that that's not the case, that it's all a new beginning, it's very clear that even if that's how the leadership feels, when it comes down to the armed forces, that's not how it is. These people are used to doing this. This is how they deal with opposition. There has to be a fundamental change of mindset, because this is always the knee-jerk reaction of ZANU-PF to anything that merely smacks of opposition in any way.
Well, it's a good thing that some sobriety came to the fore with the journalists eventually being allowed back in. But Georgina, I'd like to probe you on some of your comments that you have made about the elections so far. You are of the view, along with the leader of the MDC, Nelson Chamisa, that there is no way that these elections were free and fair. Why do you believe so strongly in this?
I think that, again, like violence, rigging is something that's deeply enmeshed in the ZANU-PF psyche. It's been going on for years and years and years. The most awful example of it was what happened in 2008, when the results took weeks to be announced. And during that time, there was terrible violence, really appalling violence, in which many people were killed. And it meant that Morgan Tsvangirai actually stopped campaigning and didn't take part. And you only need to have gone through that, through the events of 2008, to then be frightened of any subsequent election. Beat up one person and they're a living billboard for everyone else that sees them, you know. So that's one aspect of it. That's the historical aspect. And then you have all the various ways in which things were gerrymandered on the ground, from food aid, from misuse of government resources, many examples of these. All of the evidence is freely available on social media and on various websites. There are lots of human rights reports, lots of NGOs that have actually told us about this. This is not just fake news or gossip. There are properly collated reports out there, Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, for instance, and many other NGOs. There was an organization set up that's been monitoring, a civilian organization, monitoring the elections for at least 7 weeks in advance. I don't think as election monitors you can fly in and just have a look for a few days and sign off on it. That's not when the real rigging takes place. It happens sometimes years before. Having said that, I do believe that there was also dishonesty around the actual days of the poll. I think we should know why the army were transporting the ballot boxes. I mean, in one case, we even had one person pick up a ballot box and try and run away with it. That's kind of ridiculous. As Nelson Chamisa said in his press conference, Mugabe's rigging at least was sophisticated. He said he found Mnangagwa's rigging a little pedestrian.
And of course, Chamisa said a lot of things, made quite startling claims that votes to the tune of some 20 or 30,000 were not counted, that in fact his offices were invaded and evidence was attempted to be stolen on that part. But Georgina, I need to ask you, the international observers that were on the ground there so far haven't said anything that suggests that they don't think that this process, the election process, was conducted duly. In fact, here in South Africa, as the chairperson of SADC, President Cyril Ramaphosa has actually said that, you know, Zimbabweans should accept the results. My question to you is, the international observers are quite key in communicating to the international community what the view of the results was, and so far it seems like they are not perturbed.
I don't think we've had final reactions yet. I was talking to the head of the EU mission last night, and he said to me that he felt it wasn't a level playing field, that he was very disturbed with the way that things had been run, and that in fact their final report hasn't yet come out. And I think that will reflect some of those concerns. What worries me about regional election monitors is that it's not only an insult to Zimbabweans, it's an insult to you, South Africans. It's an insult to all of Africa to suggest that we are not worthy of the same standards as the rest of the world. All right, given that both the US and the Brexit elections have been less than free and fair, but even so, why should it just be good enough because it's Africa, because it's Zimbabwe? Of course, that's not good enough. We need to be up there with everybody else. It's the same standards. Democracy is democracy. You can't pick and choose. You certainly don't go out shooting civilians who are running away from you. You don't steal elections. There are so many things that have been done in contravention of the Constitution, and it's just not good enough. It's not good enough for any of us, and it's up to all of us. This needs to be a pan-African effort to say, you know what, it's enough. Stop sidelining us. It's nothing. You can't just say, it's Africa, that's okay. It's not okay.
Georgina, just final thoughts. You say that we are waiting for, some other international observers, the EU, to deliver their report. You've heard that they believe that it's not a level playing field. But of course, we have been here before. This is not the first time we have had an election in Zimbabwe that has been rigged. But people have gone on to move on, and it's sort of been business as usual. What is the risk that this will happen again?
That there will be another flawed election, you mean, or that there will be violence?
That there will be another moving on of the world, because quite frankly, the world is perhaps a bit fatigued at how Zimbabwe conducts its elections, and
Absolutely. And of course, the news cycle moves on. People aren't interested. I'm always surprised how interested people are in Zimbabwe in the first place, given that it is such a small place, kind of in the bottom of Africa, that people really don't, it doesn't make a huge global contribution. People are fascinated by it. But you're absolutely right. At some point, the international community is going to wander off board with all of this. Zimbabwe is resource rich, as you know, and if it is indeed open for business, as Emerson Mnangagwa would like us to believe, then it is a fantastic place to do business with. As you know, Zimbabweans are great people, and it's a wonderful place to visit. So I'm hoping that we can keep international engagement on the positives, and that we don't keep attracting attention because of all the negative things that happen there. It's very hard to see a way out of where we are now, this kind of political impasse. And I just hope that perhaps there is some kind of legal challenge, and that this can be resolved through the Constitution and through the courts, and that it doesn't result in any way to violence. As I said right at the beginning, my worry is that violence is within ZANU-PF's DNA, and I don't know how you change that.
Georgina, thanks so much for your thoughts. That was Georgina Godwin, a broadcaster and a journalist there.